this video is being recorded. So if you want to come back to it later in Google Classroom, there is a list of classes that are recorded. So if you want to come back and try this warm-up later, you can do that, okay? Because remember, tomorrow, it's all your time to get work done, okay? And with that said, I do want to remind people, quite a few people aren't turning in their assignments. If you finished your assignment and you thought you turned it in, remember, it's not like Desmos, you have to submit it. So in Big Ideas, you need to, when you're in the assignment, your name is going to be in the upper right-hand corner. You need to click on your name and a little menu will pop down and one of the options is submit. So I'm going to say that again. A lot of you guys, I haven't seen you turn in assignments. I don't believe you're not doing them. I just think that maybe you're just forgetting to submit them. So you can go into Skyward, right? That's where your grades are, not Google Classroom. Go into Skyward, check to see if you submitted your homework. If you haven't, all you need to do is go into Big Ideas, go into the assignment that you haven't submitted yet, and then click on your name. Not the arrow next to your name. Click on your name, and then a little menu will come down, and it will say Submit. So make sure you guys are doing that, okay? One other thing that I want to point out, I'm changing my my policy, my assignment policy. So because we are in a different time, we're going to have different rules. So I'm going to share, before I get to this problem, I want to share with you what the rule changes are going to be really quickly. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to share our syllabus. So as you guys can see in yellow, I'm going to make some changes. So the big changes are that I'm going to be changing assignments to 10 points. And don't worry about that. I'll just automatically change them to that. You don't have to do anything. But this is the big thing. All assignments are going to be based off correctness. So what does that mean? It means if you get 80 or if you get 74% of your homework correct, then you're going to get a 7.4 out of 10 points. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing this is that your grade is 80% assignments. There is no, like tests are only 20%. So the only way I can know if you're learning and doing this material is if you're getting the homework correct. So now that might be like, oh crap, like I'm really stressed, like Big Ideas, I'm not really good at using it and stuff like that. So don't freak out. So I'm going to be changing all the assignments. So from now on, you have unlimited check your answers. So before you submit, you're going to be able to check your answers as many times as you want. So you will know what your grade is when you submit it because you will know what answers you have right. So use that. Now, if you're clicking a whole bunch and you're checking your answers and it keeps saying you're wrong, that's when you should email me or you should email your support teacher and be like, hey, I keep trying this, I keep getting it wrong, can you help me out? And I will. I'll help you out and make sure that you get the answer correct, okay? Please also note that if the assignment is late, it moves into the overdue tab in Big Ideas. So just log into Big Ideas and click on the overdue tab, and you can go from there. Okay. Also, a couple things. So you get unlimited answer checks and then unlimited redos. So if you submit your assignment and you see it on Skyward, and you're like, Mr. Kraft, I want to go back and I want to redo assignment 7.1. Then you send me an email. I will unsubmit it for you and you can keep working on it again. Now, we've already done some assignments, so I just want you to know those first assignments are grandfathered in. So those first two assignments that we've done, if you turn them in, regardless of your score, I'll give you full points. So everyone, if you turn in your first few assignments, I will give you full points. But then after that, this is going to apply. One other neat thing to do, if you're in class but you don't turn your homework in time, I'll give you 4 points as a placeholder so it doesn't drop your grade a whole bunch until you get it done, okay? But that's only true if you were there for the class that we learned the material, okay? And that, so does anybody have any questions? If you guys have a question, you can turn on your microphone or you can type into chat. Okay, so Rebecca's good. How about anybody else? Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Hey, and guys, please remember that if you have questions, just email me, right? We're all learning new things. Everything is new. So if we hit bumps in the road, email me and we'll find a solution, okay? So just remember now, homeworks, your grade is based off the correctness of your homework. So make sure if you guys have questions, you really need to be using your time to come see me, ask for help, and get those done, okay? And again, if you have questions, you can come talk to me at any time. All right, let's get back to this lesson. Of course, it's my old camera. I have 3 cameras. How cool is that? It's my new, okay, that's my old camera. All right, there we go. All right, so let's go ahead now. I'm going to take off this banner. And let's take a look at the review on how to do this. And I always forget when we get out of class. So when do we get out of class? We get out of class at 11 o'clock. Oh, that's easy. Okay. So let's go over these and figure out what's going on. So in both of these, I'm going to multiply. So for this first one here, we have squared. So we have to remember squared means the same thing twice. Okay, so this is really this. Notice how we lose the square, right? It's kind of like a power-up. We use it and it goes away. So now we're going to be multiplying these two here. So that was the trick here. The squared really means I have 2 of them. So if you remember, we're doing the box. So I have a minus 6 and I have a minus 6. Okay, and then we're going to multiply to find each area of each little box first. So I go a times a is a squared, right? Because that means there's 2 of them. And then negative 6 times a is negative 6a. And then negative 6 times a is negative 6a. And then negative 6 times negative 6 is big numbers. Negative 6 times negative 6, boom, is 36. And I always like to show using a calculator because at this point, I really hope you guys are either using Desmos Scientific or you have a calculator or you have an app on your phone, okay? So, again, if you have questions, just type into chat and you can let me know, say, hey, stop, or hey, slow down. So right here, and remember, you can do it privately too. So if you're worried about other people seeing you say stop or slow down, you can just send me a private message and say, hey, stop, slow down. So what I'm going to do now, so I found the area of all the small ones. I want to find the total area, right? So I'm going to find each individual box, and I'm going to add them together. So I have a squared, right there. And then I have negative 6 and negative 6. So negative 6 plus negative 6, that's negative 12. So again, these two, right? It's going to be negative 12a. And then I have plus 36. Okay? And that's my answer. So if you have questions or you're confused, you can turn on your mic or you can type into the chat. So again, this is what we did last time. So if you're having troubles with the homework, you can let me know and I can help you out with that, okay? Really easy, we can help each other. And the more questions you ask, the more confident you're going to feel. And the more confident you feel, the more you're going to like, hey, math isn't so bad. Okay? All right. So going on to this next one. So this next one, it's already, we're going to learn about this today. This is called factored form, and we're going to learn about factored form. So it's already in factored form. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw my box. And I'm going to label my box. Now we got to be really careful. This one says plus 6, this one says minus 6. Okay, and we're going to go here. I need more color in my life. I'm going to multiply these. So it's m times m, that's m squared, right? I got 2 m's multiplying. And then I have 6 times m. And then I have negative 6 times m, so that's negative 6. And then negative 6 times 6. Well, we did 6 and 6 over here, but this one's negative. So I'm going to have negative 36. And that's where a calculator really helps out, guys, because this arithmetic, right, negative 6 times 6, right, the calculator will do it for you. And then that way, when you're stressed or you had a long day or you're tired, you don't have to make silly mistakes. Okay? So I'm going to add these together now. I have m squared, okay, from the upper left. Now this is interesting. I have -6 and +6. So those are going to cancel out, right? I have $6. I owe someone $6. Man, I don't have any money. So I'm going to just jump straight to here. And it looks different than the rest of our answers, but we just don't have that middle term. And you don't need to write 0m. So some people, they like to do this. Okay, but do you see how much more work that is to write that, 0m? And it's weird because it's just kind of a placeholder. So if you do that, it's not the end of the world, but we prefer this because it's less writing. Okay? So with that said, how are people doing? How are people feeling? Does anybody have any questions? Are we feeling pretty good about multiplying out binomials? We feeling good? Good. If you're not feeling good, that's okay too. That's why we're here. We're here to improve and get better and ask questions. So make sure, guys, since you guys aren't asking a lot of questions, it's really important that you guys are asking, because remember, this is about you, not about me. I'm already good with algebra, but you guys make sure you're asking lots of questions, okay? All right. Well, I don't see any questions, so I'm just going to go and start 7.4. So what we're going to be doing with 7.4 is we're going to be solving equations. So we're going to solve equations in factored form. So what is factored form? Okay, so factored form versus standard form. Okay, so factored form, okay, is, can I use different color? Factored form is when you have only multiplication of 2 or more terms. Okay, and standard form is what we're used to seeing. Okay, so that's just terms connected by addition and subtraction. I'm probably going a little too fast, huh? Okay, so again, factored form, it's when you have only multiplication or 2 or more terms, and then standard forms it's just addition and subtraction. Now, you're like, crap, that's a lot of words. What's going on? Okay, so let's do an example. I'm going to use the example from the warm-up we just did. So factored form would be like, here's some examples. You might have a minus 6 times a minus 6. And if you can see, that's a times b. So it's multiplying 2 terms, okay? Whereas in standard form, that was a squared minus 12a plus 36. Okay, so see how each term is separated by an addition subtraction. Now, you're right, there is subtraction here, but we consider these parentheses make those terms, okay? Here's another example. I might have x times x minus 1 times x plus 1. Okay, so here I have 1, 2, 3 terms, okay? And then let's see if I can do this correctly. So it would be x cubed minus x squared. Okay, now don't worry about going from here to here. I'm just showing you the difference. So see here, these 2 terms are separated by a minus, right? These 3 terms are separated by a minus and a plus, whereas all of these are multiplying. Okay, so we're in factored form when all we're doing is multiplying. And that's the takeaway, right? That's the key. So multiply only multiply. Okay? So and we're talking about the terms, right? So we have one term, two terms, three terms, they're multiplying. Okay? So that's what factored form is. And you're like, okay, so why do I care about factored form, right? Well, factored form, it turns out, is the most useful form for when we want to solve algebraically. And I'm going to show you this cool trick that's going to stay with you for the rest of your math career because it's so powerful. But when we're solving polynomials algebraically, this is what we want. When we're graphing things, this is what we want. Okay, so we're going to find that this, for solving and giving us information, is super important. Okay? Did everybody have a chance that you're taking notes to get this down? All right, we're okay? All right. So, what are we going to do with this now? Well, there's this special rule, the special property that makes solving polynomials so easy. It's called the zero product property. Now, of course, math has a way of making things really simple, really long, right? Now, I like to call this ZPP because it's kind of fun to say, ZPP. It also makes it sound like you're French and you're talking about PP. But zero product property, all it's saying is that the only way to multiply numbers to get 0 is to multiply by 0. Okay, so the only way to multiply numbers to get 0 is to multiply by 0. What do I mean by that? If I want 0, right, anything times 0 is 0. And I mean anything. So like I can have, right? Or maybe I can scare you a little bit and I can say the sine of natural log of e to the 4x squared times 0. Now you're like, crap, I've never seen these things. This is crazy. What is this? It's just 0. Okay? So the only way to get a result of 0 is to multiply by 0. Okay? So I do want to write down a more formal definition. Okay? I'm going to write it down like this. If 2 or more terms are multiplied. Okay, so what I'm saying here, if 2 or more terms are multiplied, okay, and they equal 0, then one, some, or all have to equal 0. Gosh, that was a long sentence. So if 2 or more terms are multiplied and they equal 0, then one, some, or all have to equal 0 as well. Now again, it's like crap with all these words. Come on, I thought this was math, not English. Well, these are important definitions, and so you might want to save these, write these down, come back and look at them, and I'll show you what they mean as an example. Okay, so this is what I mean, and this is kind of our math definition. So if I have A times B equals 0, what I'm saying is if these two things multiply to 0, then either A or B has to be 0. So what I'm saying is this means that either A equals 0, or B equals 0, or both equals 0. Right? That's the only way we can get 0. So either A is 0, B is 0, or they're both zeros. Okay? So what if I have 1 times 2 times 3 times 4? I had to do the alphabet in my head. How lame is that? Okay? And then, boom, like this. So that means A equals 0, or B equals 0, or C equals 0, or D equals 0. Now, we're not going to do anything this crazy. We're mostly just going to be doing A and B. But as you can see, it doesn't matter how many you have. If you multiply things and they equal 0, one of them, some of them, or all of them have to equal 0. Okay? And this is zero product property. Product means multiply. 0 just means that's what we're setting it equal to. So it's the when you multiply things and it equals 0 property. Okay, so I want to do an example with you, and I think you're going to find that this is pretty nice. Okay, so let's do an example. So I'm going to have 2x times the quantity of x minus 4 equals 0. Now, it's super important, right? We're not going to solve this. Okay, we're going to use ZPP, or the zero product property. Okay, and what I mean by this is we have, so the instructions, sorry, I should say solve. Okay, now don't get me wrong, we could solve this, but it's going to be, we're going to get a quadratic, you're going to do some crazy stuff. So this one, we could distribute it, right? We could distribute it, we could do that. So when I say this, you could do this. So I'm kind of lying to you. But the point I'm getting is this is a really easy example. As we get further in math, you're not going to be able to just distribute it, okay? So I just want you to know, some of you are like, well, why can't we just multiply everything by 2x? In this problem, you totally could, and you're super smart for thinking that, okay? But for right now, let's just start easy. So I have two things. I have an A term, and I have a B term, and I'm going to multiply them, and they equal 0. So we just learned that if you multiply two things and they equal 0, then one of them or both of them has to equal 0. So I'm going to say, oh, hey, check this out. This means that A, 2x, equals 0, or x minus 4 equals 0. So what we have now is we have two equations we have to solve. So we're going to have to solve this one, and we're going to have to solve this one. Well, luckily for us, they're both really just short. So I have 2 times x. I'm going to divide by 2. Okay, so I have x equals. Now, hey, really quickly, 0 divided by anything, what's that? You can type it in the chat. What's 0 divided by anything? So I need a couple more people to type it in. What's 0 divided by anything? Come on, guys. I know there's a lot more than 3 of you. Don't fall asleep. There we go. Now they're pouring in. Well done, guys. Okay, so this one, x equals 0. And I'm going to box that. Now, I got to remember, though, I'm not done. I'm going to have 2 answers, right? I'm going to have 2 answers. So over here, I'm going to go and solve this one. So I'm going to go, hey, plus 4, plus 4. I'm going to go, and I get x equals 4, and boom, I have 2 answers. So what does this tell me? So there are 2 answers that would make this 0. And you can always check your answer, right? So I can always plug these in. What's 2 times 0? 0. And 0 minus negative 4 is negative 4. Negative 4 times 0 is 0. So this one definitely works. And then here, what's 4 minus 4? 4 minus 4 is 0. So then 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 0 is 0. So both of these make this 0. Okay? So you're going to have 2 answers here. Now, a pro tip. Do you see how we had 2 terms? that tells you how many answers you're going to have. So I have two terms. So two terms, or I should say two factors. Two answers. Okay, so I have two factors. I'm going to have two answers. Hey, can you guys, you guys aren't really talking too much. I have a general feeling, since this is new, you're probably feeling like, I'm feeling okay, I'm not feeling okay, I have no idea what you just did, I just came back from the bathroom. I'm going to do one more of these, and then I'm going to have you guys try one on your own, okay? So, if you weren't paying attention this time, turn on your brain, because we're going to try this again, okay? So here we go. So for this next one, I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to have, this is example number 2. I'm going to do x minus 3, the quantity of x minus 3, times the quantity of x minus 9 equals 0. Okay, and we're going to do this one. Okay. So the first thing I would notice is we have two things. So I'm going to say I have an a times a b, and it's equal to 0. So I can use the zero product property, right? The zero product property. So when I see that I have two things being multiplied, so it's in factored form, right? Two factors, and then it's going to equal 0. So zero product property tells me that either a can be 0 or b can be 0. So I'm going to go x minus 3, oops, I don't need the parentheses, equals 0, or x minus 9 equals 0. So I don't need the parentheses. If you leave them on, it's not a big deal, because there's nothing outside the parentheses, so it doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to go ahead, once I have these, and then I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. Ooh, look at me solving two equations at once. I feel like a hacker with like multiple monitors. Okay, those go away, those go away. I get x equals 3, or I get x equals 9. So again, I had two factors, so I'm going to have two answers. All right, so we just did two examples together. How are you guys feeling? Are you feeling okay? Does anybody have any questions? All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hey, so I'm going to have you, what do you guys feel? Do you want to try one and then reflect on it? Or do you want to try two? Let's just try one. Okay, so let's try this one our own. So let's go, we're going to try 3x times the quantity of x minus 6 equals 0. So we're going to solve. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a time limit on this. I'm going to give you a time limit. I'm only going to give you a minute to do this. No, I'm going to give you a minute 30. It's our first one. It's our first one. So try this on your own. Here, show my work. And if you have questions, if you're just sitting there stuck, you can type in the chat or you can turn on your mic. All right. So, oops, did I just do 2? No. Okay. So let's go over this. So again, when I look at this, okay, I look at, okay, I have them in factored form, right? I have something times something. That's how you know you can use zero product properties when you're in factored form. Okay, so then I know that either A or B has to equal 0. So I'm going to have 3x equals 0 or x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, I divide by 3 here. I get x equals 0, right? Because anything divided by 0 is 0. And then here I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And I get x equals 6. So those are my 2 answers. Okay. We're going to do a little speed round here. Because I need you guys to try one more. But I'm only going to give you a minute for this one. So we're going to solve. And we're going to try this one. I'm going to switch things up on you just a little. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys just a minute to do this. All right, so going over this, going over this. So when I take a look at this, so the first thing I check, are we in factored form? Yeah, we're in factored form. In fact, I have 1, 2, 3 factors, don't I? I have this first one, the second one, and this third one. So I know if I'm going to multiply 3 things to get to 0, then one of them, 2 of them, or all of them have to equal 0. So I'm going to have not 1, not 2, but 3 equations. Now you're like, ugh, but hey, these are all really easy to solve, right? So I'm going to subtract 1. I'm going to add 3. And I'm going to add 2. And those are my 3 answers. Okay. Ooh, someone left. So again, zero product property is your friend. You just have to be in factored form. So you have to be in factored form. You see how many factors you have, and then that's how many solutions you're going to have. Okay? So no one has asked any questions yet or has asked me to stop. So I'm going to assume that we're okay with zero product property. So in your homework, you might see a combination of this homework and last homework, because last homework, remember, was multiplying. So you're going to see same things. You might see something squared. That means break it up into 2 pieces, or you might have multiple terms. Okay? All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the last thing we're going to talk about today. And that is factoring using, sorry, just looking at my notes here. Factoring using the greatest common factor, or GCF. Okay. Now, you guys probably have talked about the greatest common factor before. If you haven't, that's okay. But factoring using the greatest common factor. So sometimes things aren't in factored form, right? So zero product property only works in factored form. So we want to be able to get to factored form. So this is a way to get to factored form. Okay? Because solving in factored form is so much easier. Okay? So what are the steps? So first step is we're going to look at all the terms. Okay, and you're going to see there are numbers and letters. Okay, so we're going to look at all the terms. We're going to look for numbers and we're going to look for letters. Okay, and then two, what we're going to do, we're going to look for, so we're going to look for a number and or letters that each term has in common. Okay. Now, a note here, they might be multiples. By the same number. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a second, okay? And then three, okay, so we're going to practice this, okay? Because this is what we need to work on. So let's do an example of this, okay? So this is example number 3. So I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor of 4x to the 4th plus 24x cubed. Okay. Now on the side here, I'm going to make a note. Factoring is, I'm going to start over. A factor, factors are multiplied. Okay, so to get factors, we have to do the opposite. So factors are multiplied. So to get factors, we have to do the opposite. See, we don't have factors here. It's just addition. So to get it to factors, we have to do the opposite of multiply. We need to divide. So to do that, we're going to look at each of these terms, and we have numbers and we have letters. So here I have a 4, and I have 4 x's. Here I have 24, and I have 3 x's. So what we want to do is we want to find the greatest common factor of both of those. So if I look here, so the biggest number here is 4. Here, does 4 go into 24? Well, the easiest way to figure that out is to go 24 divided by 4, and it's 6. So 4 goes in here 6 times, and then there's 3 x's here, there's 3 x's in here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my GCF is going to be 4 is the biggest number that goes into both, and x cubed is the biggest that goes into those. Okay? So again, there is 4 here, which means I can take 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it on the outside, like this, and then I have to figure out what's left. So if I pull this out, you see how like this is the opposite of distribution? So I have to figure out what's left. So one way to think about it is 4x cubed times what gives me this? Well, 4 times 1 gives me 4, and then I just need one more x. So if I go like this, 4x cubed times x gives me this. Again, I'm working backwards, okay? And then here, I have to go, what times 4 gives me 24? So 6 times 4 gives me 24. So 4 times 6 would give me 24, and then there's already an x cubed. So what we just did here is we divided everything by 4x cubed. So now that we have worked backwards and have it in factored form. So I know people are going to have difficulties with this if you haven't factored before. Now I want to say you guys have factored before, and this isn't the first time you've done this. It depends on where you are, okay? So that is now in factored form. Okay, so we need to do more examples, okay? So let's do more examples. How are people doing? Was this confusing? It's okay to say if it was confusing or if you're lost, but we're trying to figure out the greatest number, the greatest letter that fits into both. We're pulling it out and then seeing what's left. And you can always double check your answer by distributing, and you'd get back to this. I'm a little worried. No one is saying anything. Okay, it's a little weird. So either you guys are like good at this or you're really confused. So I'm going to do another example. Okay. So let's do 12x cubed plus 3x squared. So this is example 4. And I want to get this, so I want to put this into factored form. Okay. Oops, so put this into factored form. So I need to find my GCF. Okay. So I'm going to look at these numbers. So I'm trying to think the biggest number that goes into 12 and 3. Well, 12 doesn't go into 3, so I'm not going to start there. Yep, I post this onto YouTube. I'm going to try to have it up by 3 o'clock. Okay, so if I take a look here, so 3 is the, and Megan, I hope you're laughing because if you have questions, let me know. So 3 is the smallest number here. So I have to look, does 3 go into 12? And 3 does go into 12, right? So I'm going to say 3 is my biggest number that goes into both, right? 3 goes into 12 4 times. And then if I take a look at this, x squared, so I have 2 x's here and 3 x's here, there's definitely 2 x's here. So x squared is going to be the biggest that I can do. So this is my greatest common factor. Are you guys doing okay with how I got the greatest common factor? Okay. So then I'm going to put my greatest common factor on the outside like this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have, so 3 times what gives me 12? So that's 4. And then x squared times what would give me x cubed? Well, I'm missing one x, so there would be an x there. Then 3 times what will give me 3? Well, that's 1. And x squared times 1 would give me x squared. So this is just 1. And then that is your answer right here. Hey, I'm running out of time really quickly. On your homework, there is one question that looks kind of like this. And it says find the zeros. And then it gives you an equation. It says y equals x minus 6, x plus 6. Okay. Then it's going to say find the zeros. So if we solve this, all this is saying is that if this is 0, then it wants to know where they are. Well, if I solve this, this is x minus 6 equals 0, and x plus 6 equals 0. So then plus 6, and then minus 6, minus 6. So then that means that this right here is x equals 6, and this right here is x equals negative 6. Okay, So that's just a visual of what we're going to be doing, right? So we're going to be talking more about polynomials, okay? It doesn't look like a line, does it? But do you see how it crosses the x-axis? It crosses it twice, right? So when we're doing this, I just wanted to give you, we're running out of time, but I wanted to give you a visual of what it's looking like. We get these wavy functions, and it's going to cross the x-axis multiple times, okay? Whereas with a line, it only crosses it one time, right? So this is how we're getting more than one solution. We are crossing the line x-axis more than once, and I hope that helps out graphically, okay? And then the last thing I want to do, I'm running out of time here, is you might have something that says solve, and then it gives you an equation like this. Solve, and then 2x squared plus 8x equals 0. So the steps here to do something like this is 1, get it into factored form. Factored form. So to do that, I'm going to have to use the GFC. So I take a look here and I think, okay, step 1, right? That's common factor. So I take a look here. So 2, it goes into 8. So I'm going to have my GCF is going to be 2. And then I look here, right? The biggest that goes into both is just x. So then I can write my greatest common factor on the outside. And then I multiply to get both back. So 2x times what gives me 2x squared and x. And then 2x times what gives me 8x. That's 4, right? Because 2 times 4 is 8. The x stays. 2 times 1 is 2. X times x is x squared. So I get it into factored form. And then step 2 is to use zero product property to solve. Okay, so see how this is equal to 0? I have an A, I have a B, it's equal to 0. So that means that 2x equals 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. So I can go ahead and divide by 2. I get x equals 0. And then I can subtract 4, and I get x equals negative 4. So I'd box both these answers up, because again, graphically, can you guys imagine that it crosses the x-axis twice? And those are the two places that it crosses. Okay, I'm not going to lie, guys, I'm really worried because no one's asking questions. Because usually when I teach this, people are like, hey, can you show me this? Or I'm confused about this. We do have time to practice one question. So in these last couple of minutes, why don't you guys try one on your own? Okay, so I'm going to, let's try this one. So I want you to solve, so this is the two-step one. I want you to solve 6n squared minus 15n equals 0. Okay, and I'll give you a little hint. First, we have to get it to factored form. And then use ZPP. I think getting it into factored form is the harder part here. So in the little time that we have, give that a shot. Hey guys, I'm sorry, we don't have enough time. I just checked, it's 10:59. So in this case, it's hard because 6 doesn't go into 15, does it? So we have to be a little bit more clever here, okay? Which can be frustrating at sometimes because if you don't get it, you don't get it. But what number goes into 6 and 15? Can someone type it into the chat? Is there a number that goes into 6 and into 15? Can someone type that into chat? What do we got? What goes into 6 and what goes into 15? Same number. So we're looking for a number that goes into 6 and 15. So 5 goes into 15, right? But 5 times what? 5 times 3, right? And then isn't 6 2 times 3? So 3 goes into both, right? 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 5 is 15. So we have both of those going right now, okay? Then we look, okay, so I have an n here. N goes to n squared, so I'm just going to have 3n. So I'm going to pull the 3n out. I'm going to have 3 times what is 6? It's 2. And then n times what is n squared? It's n. And then 3 times what is 15? Oh, negative 15. It has to be a negative 5. And then the n is just there. So now this is factored form. Okay, and I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to keep going here. So now we have two things multiplying to get to 0. So that means 3n equals 0 or 2n minus 5 equals 0. And if you're like me, the second part's the easy part. Factoring is the hard part. And hey guys, yeah, no, Megan, I totally get you. And that's the thing, because the way our brains work, that's going to happen all the time. And I do that all the time too. So if you guys need help on your homework, email me, come to my office hours. I'd love to help, because you can get this stuff. It's just sometimes it's frustrating because you don't get it right away. It's like a puzzle, right? If you don't get a puzzle right away, it's like really frustrating because it's like, why am I not getting this puzzle right away? Okay, and then I have 2. And just remember, guys, you don't have to use decimals. You can just leave it as a fraction because fractions are our friends. Okay, so you can just leave it as 5 halves. Okay, I held you over a couple of minutes. I'm super sorry. Guys, remember that your homework is going to be based off correctness now. So if you need help, please email me a support teacher. But let's make sure you guys are getting 100% because I think everyone can get 100%, okay?